Welcome to the Sons of Mjolnir podcast.
The Sons of... what?
This isn't your Sons of Macaroni, yeah!
The Sons of Mjolnir?
This is Sons of Mjolnir, yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sons of Mjolnir. As always, I am one of your hosts, Fat Thor, and today I am joined by a very special guest returning to the show, our good friend Corey Pruitt, aka Task. You guys might remember him from our last episode. I want to say it was issue 27 we had you on.
Yeah.
Talked about all about your comic career, the books you're writing. So Task, my friend, thank you so much for coming back and nerding out with me today. Super excited to have you.
Mic check. We on? We good?
We go, baby. We good.
Yo, I just want to kick it off with this, man. If you don't like Eternals, just block me, man.
Yes.
Follow me. I'm tired of this conversation. I'm tired of being like giving people like the benefit of the doubt. I'm over it. I'm done with it. I'm calling out anybody. If you don't like Eternals, you can just block me, bro. I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing it with anybody. Also, aren't you with Agents of Fandom now?
Yes, I am. So a little announcement. I'm now with Agents of Fandom. Gonna be.
Oh, did I take that from you?
No, man, you didn't take it. It's not a secret. But yeah, man, I'm over at the Agents of Fandom, baby. Shout out TJ. Wonderful people.
You know, it's good. I support TJ a lot. Shout out to TJ. Even though he's Canadian. We gotta forgive him.
Yeah, I forgive him for that one.
You gotta forgive him for being Canadian. He was texting me the other day and he put a U in color and I almost threw the phone across the room. I was like, fam.
Bruh, seriously?
I was like, fam, there's no U in color. And he was like, there is in Canada. And I was like, Shout out to TJ, because I could tell that TJ's a good dude because he was able to do what I wasn't able to do. And that's why I like him. I wanted to create a hub where people could come and feel included and people could have podcasts and people could come and write. Like we did that before. I don't know if you remember Do You Even Comic Book? Like that was something we were doing and it fell apart. Like we talked about while we were off air. Yeah. It fell apart like because of just, sometimes business and friendship don't mesh well. And maybe I'm not the greatest person. I had to learn. Maybe I could be very, and TJ is Canadian, so he's not like that at all.
Sweetest guy ever. Sweetest guy.
Nicest dude ever. I had him on the podcast, and I tried to trick him. He'll tell you about this. I tried to trick him. I said to him, I was like, hey, sir, as a white man,
oh, God. Start off on that.
I said, sir, as a white man, what do you think should change and get the hood? And his immediate answer was, well, as a white man, I do not have a place to have a conversation about that. I was so mad. I was like,
bastard.
You're good at this, TJ. Yeah. So shout out to TJ and his his huge fan base and his huge group that he's doing. I'm like appreciative of like I support everything you guys do.
Yeah, I love, like I said, all the love to TJ. I could not be more happy to be working with those folks. I love everyone over there. Great platform. Everyone listening, watching to this, go check out Agents of Fandom, podcasts, articles, anything you want in the nerd sphere. We got it. But getting back on topic, Task.
Yeah, sorry.
No, please. Like, you know us. We love a good tangent over
just
here.
Get it out.
Friend.
Yeah, just get it
but
out.
you gave us the perfect introduction for our topic today, and that is Eternals. Like Task said, I want to echo what he said in the beginning of this. If you don't like Eternals, you can just fucking block me right now. Because the hate that this movie has been getting over the past couple years has been absolutely ridiculous. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to invite you back on, because we both share a love for this movie, and we both have since before it even came out. We were hitting the Eternals drum. So most recently, Kumail Nanjiani just had some comments about Eternals and the kind of aftermath about it. So that's why I wanted to come and bring you on. And like you said, I'm sick of talking about this too. So let's get it all out. Let's finish the conversation. Hopefully with this episode, we will put all the haters in silence and finally move on from this. Yeah. But to kick this off, I want to talk about those comments that Kumail made because I think that they're very important and especially important to this discussion. So I want to try and quote him as best I can here. And so he was just recently on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Inside of You, I'm pretty sure it's called. Yeah. And he asked him about Eternals and like, you know, what was that like? And so Kumail says, like I said, I'm going to try to quote him as close as I can here, but he says, the reviews were just really bad and I was too aware of it. I was reading every review and this thing had become too much in my head. And this was supposed to be my big coming out party that I've worked so hard for. It was really, really hard and I couldn't approach my work like that. So I did start counseling. I do have trauma from it. I think that there was some weird soup in the atmosphere for why that movie got slammed so much. And I think not much of it has to do with the actual quality of the film. So I just want to, you know, start the conversation off there. Really, like, what are your thoughts on Kumail's comments there? I just want to say before we start, you know, yo, Kumail, if you're out there listening or watching this, I hope you saw some of my reviews because there's people out there that loved it and his role especially I loved. So Taz, take it away.
Absolutely. As you can see, right when he said it had nothing to do with the actual film and the quality, I went doo, doo, doo,
yep.
doo, doo, doo. What that means is that's a shot fired. Kumail is saying the quiet part out loud. And I really appreciate that. Well, he didn't say it loud enough because he still got to protect himself.
Yeah.
And you know, I always tell people I can't ever fully go full like corporate or Hollywood because I don't put a filter on myself. I never have. I'm going to say it like whatever it is. So let me say it just for him because he couldn't say it. People were afraid of the Eternals. Marvel decided, let's go full representation. Let's get all types of races, all types of people, all types of women. They even had LGBTQ in there. And let's be clear, a lot of people didn't like that. Like the conversation when they found out that there would be a gay character in there, that already started the downfall.
Yeah.
Also another thing that people didn't know, I'm in a chat with a bunch of I'm in a chat with a bunch of film bros. They keep me in there because unfortunately they have to talk about the comic book stuff because of the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And they keep me around because they know that I know the information on it and all the stuff. So I upset a lot of them, but I think it's funny. But they were hating on that movie early. Before it even came out, they were hating on it. And I would just ask them, like, what's the problem? First thing they told me, and I don't even know if you know this or a lot of people know this. First thing they told me was that they considered Chloe Zhao a sellout.
Because she took Marvel?
Huh?
Because she took a Marvel film?
Yes.
Oh my god.
She had the movie. I forgot. Forgive me. I forgot the name. She had a movie that won an award.
Yeah. I'll throw the picture up in editing.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to look that up because King Chloe deserves.
Oh, Chloe Zhao. That will be a major topic of this discussion.
Yes.
Is Chloe Zhao because she is just so great, and again, fantastic. The hate for the movie and her is just so ridiculous. Nomadland, yes, and she also did. It's like The Ride or something.
Yes, he did. She did The Ride. Yeah. I don't know if that one won, but Nomadland did.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you saw Nomadland. I think it's on Hulu. I watched it immediately after I found out about her. That's something that Marvel doesn't get a lot of respect for. Is that Marvel has put a lot of people on.
Oh hell yeah!
They put a lot of people on, people who we never knew are directors that we never knew about. Just them being mentioned. People go back and look at their stuff. That's exactly what happened with Chloe Zhao. Now, this is a woman who won an Oscar for like an indie type film. So like the film bros were putting her up on this pedestal, as in like she's the future. She's what's gonna happen next. And what does she do? She takes a Marvel. A lot of them felt betrayed by that.
So
a lot of them felt like, how dare you do that? You are a representation. It's kind of like what happened with mutants and humans. It's like you're trying to evolve the genre that we've already written off. And she did things that these film bros always complained about with Marvel. They said, "Oh, they don't do actual set locations." She had actual set locations. Oh, they're usually this type of color. She used outside lighting. Like she was using actual location. They were. I remember in one of the I was watching one of the Eternals making of film parts, and they said that they were filming at like 5 a.m, and it was like freezing cold, because they're right next to the ocean, so it's like 20 degrees outside. But she was like, "No, we have to get there at this time because there's specific sun lighting we need." And they went with that. And these are things that all these film bros were saying, "No, we don't do that. No, they don't do that. They don't do that." Well, here she comes doing it. Oh, we have a problem with that. We have a problem with that because you represent something else. Everything that we hate Marvel for, you're doing the opposite of that. We also complain that all the Marvel movies don't need to tie together. Okay. Here's a movie where it doesn't really tie in to anything. Okay, we have a problem with that because there's a narrative that we are pushing, and you are doing the opposite of the narrative. So, with that being said, they set out to destroy this film. They set out to destroy it. What Kumail said was completely correct. It has nothing to do with the quality. If you watch that film, there is no way you could say that film is just as bad as Catwoman. That film is just as bad as Fat Thor. This is why I get upset, because I'm like, if you don't like a movie, fine. But don't you sit there and try and make it seem like it belongs in that bottom barrel with like Dark Phoenix and The Flash and that type of stuff. Like it's nowhere near on that level.
Not even on the same fucking universe, dude. Like 100%. Oh my
god. If you ask me, Marvel has never made a movie that bad.
Like, I mean, obviously, we're the Marvel shill. You know, you look on Twitter, we're the MCU shill. So
you're right. You're
right. But I 100% agree, dude. We're not coming with that caliber. Like, people are just, like I said, it's all so silly. And I think you just broke it down so beautifully of why people not only were resistant to this, but had kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm messing on my words right now. Incentive. That's the word.
Incentive.
They had an incentive to bash this movie because, like you said, it's going against the narrative that they are building their kind of reputation and audience on. So, like I said, you smashed that breakdown for me, and I want to mention too, like you, going back to the point of like Chloe Zhao selling out, right? Which again, just so fucking silly. Like that's just a silly comment that it makes no sense to me. And the reason I want to bring this up is so one. Chloe Zhao, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you probably know as well. She's the one who brought Eternals to Marvel. Like they set a meeting. Like I don't think she sought out the meeting, but she's the one who came in and was like, "I want to do Eternals." And
they wanted her. They met with her, and this is something that Feige does that I don't think a lot of people does. He went to one of those artsy fartsy movie things, and that's where he saw Nomadland.
Yeah.
And one superhero movie on that docket. He went anyways. Why? Because that's what he does. He goes and discovers directors and gives them a chance. Ryan Coogler, like, yeah, he was doing stuff like that, but when he did Black Panther, that took him to a whole nother atmosphere. Look at Simon Liu. I say his name wrong. Simon. Who was Simon before this? He's hosting the People's Choice Awards. Like things like that. So he's always looking for new talent. He's always looking for things. And he took a whole entire he took a chance. But he wanted her to do Black Widow.
That's crazy to think about.
Ain't that crazy?
That's crazy.
He wanted originally for Black Widow to have a more down to earth feel on it, because out of almost everyone in the Avengers, she doesn't have powers. So he wanted that movie to be more grounded. And she said to him pretty much, well, if you want me to do something, I want to do something bigger. I want to do something that's going to reflect forever and not just a movie that's going to, I don't want to say Black Widow came and gone, but as of right now, it hasn't been tied back to really until Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
And she was like, I want Eternals.
which is such a I think that just shows how creative of a storyteller that she is, that she came with Eternals. And I think shout out again to No Man's Land, the movie she did prior. I think, and then shout out to Feige too, like you were saying, is that I think if you watch that movie, you can definitely see the Zhao-ness of it and how she brought that into Eternals, like you were talking about with the real locations and the way in which she sets a scene and the way in which she portrays the emotion of a scene. I think those are the things like Feige saw in that movie. And he wasn't necessarily like, oh, this person would do a great superhero movie. It's this person will bring an amazing perspective to a story that we need to tell. So like you said, I think that's one of the advantages that the MCU has and the strengths that they have is being able to see that talent in people like Simu and Chloe Zhao and all that. And I want to bring up too, when we're talking about her pitch for the Eternals, and I loved this so much, and I think it was probably the same thing you were watching, the making of the Eternals. And so her pitch for the Eternals, she said she came in and she recited a William Blake poem. I don't know the name of this poem in particular, but the poem basically says, to see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And that was her like initial, like, this is how I envision the Eternals. Like, this is how I envision this mythology of the MCU. And again, I just think that's so beautiful. And I think that quote and that poem really does encapsulate the film so well.
I agree 100%. I tell people it's almost unfair to call Eternals a superhero film. And the reason why I say that is there's not really if you look at it, really, it's more of the story of humanity told through the eyes of gods.
Yeah, and our place in all of this.
And it's showing how life evolved, how these guys helped evolve through this life. I love that there were ones that were all about like the fighting, and there were ones that were more like that could control minds and different things like that. Everyone had their purpose.
Yeah.
The team. And yeah, there were some times they were fighting monsters, but that wasn't really what it was about. It was about that they were preparing Earth for something. And they didn't really know what that was, but one of them did find out what it was, and he had to keep that path going. And when it comes to Icarus, people say that Icarus was a bad guy, but this is where I open the conversation. I always say this is why I like this movie. I say, was Icarus really the bad guy? And people say, what do you mean? I was like, Icarus was doing what he was supposed to be doing. Out of all of them, you can consider them the bad guys, because they're like, wait, whoa, we're not going to do this. And they're like, no, that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, and it's like, I think we have to also remember that, we're talking about like grand cosmic scales here. Yeah. We're not talking about like, yes, obviously we want to save Earth because we live here, but there's billions of planets. There's, billions of galaxies. And this is how the galaxy keeps going, is by celestials. It's all about energy. It's all about redistributing that energy. So if Earth, and I think Icarus has a great point in that if Earth dies, it allows billions of other worlds to live. And
100%.
It's like, when you put it like that, you can see where Icarus is coming from. And like you said, if you want to get technical with it, he is the only one that did his job. Like, their jobs again are to redistribute this energy throughout the universe for the Celestials. And it's like, when you look at it like that, like you said, you can honestly see all, the good Eternals, quote unquote, as the bad guys. Because who knows which I think this is what we're going to find out, but what are the consequences of that?
Yeah.
What are the 100%. Consequences of Tiamut not emerging? We kind of see this. It reminds me of, I'm sure that you're aware of this just as much as I am, but I was actually just reading some old X-Men Silver Surfer. I was reading Silver Surfer. And at the end of, I think it's issue 2 of Silver Surfer, there's a preview of the Watcher series. And it gives you like a little backstory on Uatu and the Watchers. And basically what happens with the Watchers is sort of a very similar thing in the sense of they evolve so much that they're like, oh, we want to share this knowledge with everyone and, you know, give all these people all this stuff. And so they do that. And basically the world that they help becomes like a nuclear holocaust and they destroy like a bunch of planets. And that's why they decide to only watch, because they're like, we cannot influence these things because it's just going to go to shit. And I think that that applies very heavily with the MCU and this Eternals movie, because again, it's like, yes, we want to save Earth because that's where we live, but what are the consequences of that? And I think that is what Arishem and, you know, Icarus's whole deal is.
Yes, I agree. I also makes me wonder, because what made them change their mind about like what they were supposed to do, Salma Hayek's fine ass, I've had a crush on that woman for over 30 years. My wife knows about it and everything. My wife is like, yeah, I get it.
He's like, my wife's cool with it, I swear.
But you know, the blip that happened.
Yes, the snap.
I think the snap and the blip really ended up kind of sort of saving humanity, saving Earth, because what ended up happening was the Eternals saw humans come out of that. They saw them fight to bring everybody back. That didn't happen in any other planet. It happened on Earth. And she was like, these people are different.
Yeah.
We've watched numerous planets die, but these people fought to the end. They're worth saving. And that saved their life, because if it wasn't for that blip, they probably would have just let it happen. Like, all right, cool, whatever.
Well, that's the whole thing. It kind of going back to, you know, my Watcher analogy is like they're in the very similar situation, and which is another criticism that is always so stupid to me, is like, well, why didn't they help fight Thanos? Why didn't they show up to Endgame? It's like they literally explain it in the movie. They cannot interfere with human evolution, and it's like that was our test, and we fucking passed that shit with flying colors. And like you said, that was what showed Ajax that we are something special. Like we have more to offer. And which, you know, we're talking about these cosmic scales and stuff. That's a pretty huge thing. When you've seen millions of worlds die before, but it was this one that was like, you know what? Maybe we should rethink this whole thing, right? So, I mean, again, that's just one of the many reasons that we love this movie. And I think something that, you know, a lot of people really don't understand, or maybe just kind of missed it to them.
Well, in their kind of sort of defense, they're used to things go boom, explosions.
Yeah.
Then I used to having to think. And when I would bring things up to them, you know, when I talked about Icarus, I actually changed the dude's mind with that when I said that. I also took it forward further. What about Crow? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, oh, he was bad. And I want to say, I asked him a question. I said, was he good, or was he just doing what he was created to do? And he had to stop and think. I was like, remember, that's what they were created to do. That was the reason why the dinosaurs died. Oh, I thought that was great. Oh, that was fantastic.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, that was great.
And did you notice, I'm sure you did, you know, this movie's been out for a while now, but the little scroll reference in there too, like how they deviants turn into scroll, like, bro, so good.
Like,
so
this makes sense. This makes sense. And so what happened was they went and destroyed everything. They're like, all right, humans are coming, but the deviants are like, oh, we're just going to keep, that's what we're programmed to do.
Yeah.
So of course, Crow sees them as the bad guy. They're like, dude, you pretty much enslaved my people.
Yeah.
You created us, you enslaved us, and then you kill us. We're doing what you guys made us to do.
Well, not even that, but Arishem specifically. And I think that's like really, which I guess this goes to one of my criticisms that I can agree with, and kind of that I have with the movie is with Crow. And I think that's one of the what makes him so interesting in the comic books and the Deviants in general is, like you said, that idea of them being the forgotten children, like the children of Arishem that were cast aside, and then they made the Eternals, and it's like, oh, these are our boys, you know what I mean? But it's like, well, what about us? Yeah, like we were here for, like, you made us first to do this job, and now you changed your mind, so now we all just have to fucking die. Like, that's bullshit. That's why I say, like, I don't want to say a good guy, because it's like, you know, he's still a deviant, but yeah, it's like he's 100% justified, and if anything, it's like he's fighting the same fight that our Eternals are fighting towards the end.
100%.
It's
He's
just
like, we're doing what you guys are doing. We're fighting for survival.
exactly,
That's what we waited for. I love a good villain with a great origin story, and that makes you almost want to question, is it fair to call him a villain? Another great example of that I say is Magneto.
Oh,
You know,
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I tell people say, is Magneto a villain? My answer is always the same. That depends on who you're asking. I loved in the beginning of the Krakoa era, where Magneto meets some young, kid mutants, and they're afraid of him. They're like, "Oh, that's Magneto. That's Magneto. Like, you're doing this." And I loved what he said to him. He was like, "Children, everything that I have done is for you. Everything I have done is for you. People say I'm a villain. I'm killing all these humans. Look at what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
They're making giant robots. We are illegal. We are hunted. Don't buy the bag."
Yeah, I mean, his methods obviously are a little extreme, but that's what makes him so great. And like you said, that's why I wouldn't classify him as a villain either, because everything he does is for the betterment of mutant kind. And it's like that's Charles's goal as well, but they just have vastly different ways to go about it, which is what makes them so compelling.
100%. And it's funny because you said it too. You were like, well, there's different extremes, and I tell people this is nothing against you. I'm like, I mean, more extremes than building giant robots to kill children. Like, this is the argument you go back and forth, because I agree it is an extreme, but then he could just flip that on us. He was like, 100%. They destroyed Genosha.
Yeah,
they killed millions of us. What do you mean I'm extreme?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
That's the conversations I have. And that's the type of conversations that we could have with Eternals. Is that, like, who's the good guy? Who's really the bad guy? And it's also a great example of sometimes the right thing to do is the wrong thing to do.
Yes. I love, dude, air horns in the chat for that one. That you cooked with that.
Yes, sometimes the right thing to do is the wrong thing to do. And this was one of those examples. Like, we're here to do this. We're here to for Tiamut to be born. That keeps, the galaxies going. Blah blah blah. Yeah, we're supposed to do that, but you know what? We're not gonna do it this time.
You know what? Fuck that.
Fuck that. And people were saying that's kind of mean. I said, if you think about it, in the Guardians of the Galaxy comics, one thing that I wish the MCU would talk about more, but that's okay, is that Earth sucks.
Yeah.
Earth sucks. Think about all the stuff that is happening on Earth. It's not happening anywhere else. It's happening here. So these beings who, control the galaxies are like, yo, what's up with this place right here?
Yeah, for real.
This place right here. Look at everything that's happening. Look at that Ultron. They're looking at everything with Thor. They're looking at they're like Doctor Strange going through realities. They're just like, dude, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What's going on in this place? It's messing everything up. They got the Wakandans. They got space Mercury stuff.
I'll say, if anything, getting rid of Earth would probably be a good thing for the Marvel universe.
Yes, 100%. Like, Earth sucks.
Yeah.
Look at all the other planets. They chilling.
It reminds me of this was like a million years ago now, feels like, but back when Infinity War came out, I was actually at this podcast, and they had Stephen McFeely, I forget their exact names, but the writers for Infinity War, Captain America, First Avenger, blah blah blah. And I got to ask them a question, and I asked them, and like I said, this is right after Infinity War. So my question was about the Soul Stone. And I asked them, why did they choose Vormir to put the Soul Stone on? Because you remember just as well as I, we were both in the conversation, but everyone, there was theories that it was in Wakanda. There were theories that, so-and-so had, or, all this. And what they told me, I always remember, because I thought it was very interesting. I think it relates to what we're talking about here. Yeah. And they were saying, we were aware of all those theories. Like, we heard all, the Wakanda stuff and, this and that. They're like, but really, we had to remember, like, Earth already had the Space Stone. Earth already had the power, or not the Power Stone, but the Time Stone, right? It's like, there are billions of planets in the galaxy. In the grand scheme of things, like, we are not that important. And they were like, we just thought to put another soul stone there would be, or another infinity stone would just be putting too much importance on us when this affects everyone in the galaxy, not just Earth. And I think, like I said, that really applies to what we're talking about here with Erisham and kind of his whole motives, which, again, going back to the whole hero villain, that I think he's another great example of, you know, Erisham's not bad. Like, he's not a villain. Like, he's just doing celestial shit. Like, again, these are things like we as people and fucking mortals just cannot comprehend these big concepts of how the universe works. And going off of that, I also want to talk about kind of some of the other criticism that we touched on a little bit. Is this movie, in my opinion at least, has a lot of things that, like you were saying, people complain that the MCU lacks, right? And one of the biggest things I think that this movie has, and it's weird to me that I don't see more people championing this movie is pure Jack Kirby. Like, this is Jack Kirby 100%. Like, you know, I obviously did not know the man personally, but from what I know about him and everything I've read, he would have been so ecstatic to see this come to life on the big screen. 100%. And I think that, you know, people don't really realize or understand how important the idea and the concepts of Celestials and the Eternals are to not only comics, but to the MCU as a whole. So I want to talk a little bit about all those relationships. And I know you are very well versed in the comic just as well as I am. But I mean, Celestial, like, this is, people, again, another criticism people keep spewing out is, where are the X-Men? Where are the X-Men? This is how we get the X-Men. This is how we get mutants. This is how, like, this is all of this. Like, it doesn't seem like it's connected, but hell, even Thor and the Asgardians are technically offshoots of Eternals. Like, everything is related to the Celestial. So I just want to, again, get your kind of thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, I know that Chloe Zhao played the movie for the Kirby estate, and she got they gave the thumbs up on that, and they're very, like, particular when it comes to these type of things. So I feel like, I mean, I don't know the whole insides out, but I could see her going to them and saying, yo, like, how do you think we should do this? How do we think we should do this? I think the introduction to the Eternals with the Kirby stuff is also very important, because we just got the Fantastic Four announcement just a few days ago.
Yes.
And you know what comes with Fantastic Four?
Galactus, baby. Silver Surfer, all that shit.
Silver Surfer. So what I think the Eternals help introduce into the MCU is that it's bigger than Earth.
Yes.
It's bigger than just this place. It's about throughout the ethos, you know, like throughout the whole galaxy. And everything, like you said, with Erisham, I also would say is also with Galactus. Because
100%, yes.
Galactus, I tell people, it's almost unfair to call Galactus. It's almost unfair to say that Galactus is a person. Galactus is a force of nature, and killing him would mess up everything. Because he's nature. You know, like, when he chooses a planet, that means it's that planet's time. That's like they did stories where they're like, we could just stop Galactus from doing it, and then, like, everything would go to crap. And they're like, dude, what happened? Like, no, that's his job. To mess him up would be to, you know, like, you know, mess up the
destroy everything.
Yes. So that's kind of what it is with Erisham and them. I'm like, you guys are now going against natural order. That's not okay. You guys are going back in time. You guys are gathering Infinity Stones. You guys are
shit we should not be doing. Like, we should not be doing this shit.
What are we doing? Like, what are we got y'all in the Marvels opening up holes to different reality. What are you doing? What are you? Doctor Strange is casting spells and making people forget their minds, and different people from different generations, and then Deadpool's gonna come. Like, they're looking like, dude, this place is a problem.
Yeah, straight up enemy number one on the cosmic scale list. And I think, you know, with the whole Galactus thing too, I think this, again, speaking of, like, oh, how are we going to get this shit? Eternal, like, that's how we're getting it. And I would say, you know, with the introduction of Arishem, and especially the way in which they're playing it in the MCU, like we talked about, the distribution of energy. And for those out there who don't know, you mentioned it very briefly, but Galactus, like you said, is a force of nature. And not only is a force of nature, but he at one point was a man, like a regular dude. And basically what happened is his planet got destroyed during the Big Bang. And how was the Big Bang introduced in the MCU task? Who created the first sun? Arishem. So he would, if once we get Galactus, he is going to have very intimate beef with these Celestials. And honestly, like we're talking about, he's kind of the answer to Celestials.
Yeah.
Where Celestials
he's kind of the anti-Celestial.
Exactly, where they create life and distribute this energy throughout the universe. Galactus collects that energy. He feeds off that energy. So again, it's like I don't think people really grasp how big of an introduction of the Celestials is just off of the concept of them. And again, it's like I just feel like people complain all day, all night about like, oh, this isn't like the comic books. This isn't, again, Eternal, for those out there who don't know, Eternals was one of Jack Kirby's like babies. And this was so again, a little history for everybody. Jack Kirby, obviously legendary artist for Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, literally any character you can think of from Marvel, he basically created them. And he left Marvel, and that's when he went to create what is called the Fourth World, which shares a lot of similarities to the Eternals. And Kirby was obsessed with things like mythology and ancient civilizations and our place in the universe and our relationships with gods. And so after Fourth World in DC, when he came back to Marvel for a very short period, the first story that he did was the Eternals. And again, it was again, Fantastic Four, Captain America, all those, obviously those are iconic and forever are in history. But in my mind, Eternals is again one of Kirby's soul creations that was his, and he put all of his love and what he was interested in it. And again, I think all of that translates so well to this movie, like you were saying, dealing with these questions of our place in the universe. What does it mean to be human, especially in the eyes of gods, people who live eternally? And again, it's just people complain about, oh, they're disrespecting the comics and shit. Bro, this was a love letter to those comics. Like, that was a little tangent on my end, but
no, you're good. First of all, how do I say this correctly? Every person who says like, oh, it's not like the comics, dude,
go read the comics.
like first off, let's be clear. The Eternals, they have the Jack Kirby did a lot of great stuff because he was addicted to mythology and how mythology would resonate in real life. One which sounds like the Eternals movie.
Yeah.
Like the whole concept of it was that, like, how would mythology work in real life? One of the things I know Jack Kirby was against was calling characters like Thor gods. And what he would do instead, like, we called them gods, but what they really were aliens. Like, that was his way of saying if this stuff was real. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Like, their form of magic is just science that it's a science. It's a phrasing that Iron Man says all the time that I love. Magic is just science that we haven't figured out yet.
Yeah.
And I like
Which is
that.
True.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
So, he was like, it's just science that we haven't figured out how to do yet. And so with characters like Thor in them, like, he wanted to say these guys are really just aliens that we worshipped. I mean, at one point, Thor didn't even really fly. He threw the hammer, and that's why it has a handle on it.
And it propelled him.
Yeah, there's scenes where you see where, like, the hammer is, like, in front, and he's holding it in front of him. You know what I'm talking about.
I would say all the early, like, I would say probably up until, like, after the Stan Lee stuff, all early Thor, that's how he flew, was by the hammer, and that's why every panel you see him whirling it up, because that's how he flies.
Exactly. And then it just became just this cool thing, like, for him to do, like, and like the twirling, and like he can just fly without it. But yeah, they've but with him, and especially with Eternals, even on the fourth world, people don't even know the whole concept of the fourth world was basically it's the fight between heaven and hell with Earth caught in the middle. That was his basic point. The new Genesis gods were heaven, and Apocalypse was basically like that's what it was. Like that was his whole concept. The fight between heaven and hell, with the Earth caught in the middle. With Eternals, what he was trying to tell a story of is like the creation of man. That like, what if I took like the creation of man and put it in a world of superheroes? And that was the whole concept. And that's kind of what I got with the film Eternals. That's what I felt like I got. I got a modern version of that while also, while also paying homage to the original stuff. That's what I got in that film. And, I think what it is, and now I'm just going to remove think. One of the things with Eternals was a lot of people hated the MCU. It's kind of goes to X-Men. The Hollywood bros, the Hollywood people, to this day, they don't like superhero films. They refuse to like acknowledge them as what they are. And that's how we get things like Angela Bassett getting snubbed. That was nasty. Angela Bassett losing that was nasty.
And then getting an Oscar afterwards.
I hate the participation trophy. Oscar. I don't even like to call it an Oscar. That's not an Oscar.
Yeah,
to me,
fucking bullshit.
That's not an Oscar to me. That's a participation trophy, and that's our bad.
It makes it honestly kind of worse. Like at least
that's
in
how
my,
I
it's
see
like,
it.
Yeah, it's like it honestly feels kind of worse. Like, dude,
to me, it does. And I'm not Angela Bassett, but I wouldn't even want it. I'm like, no, you guys did not give it to me. Stand on that. Stand on that. You guys did not give that to me, and let the whole world remember that you guys screwed me.
Yep.
Let them remember that. Let them know that. And that's why, and that was bullcrap. And then even if I was Jamie Lee Curtis, I'd feel away. Like Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, why didn't you just give it to her then?
Bro, we're gonna be here for hours if we start talking about this.
No. We'll breeze through it. Breeze through it. But like things like that, this is important because this goes all the way, this stemmed all the way from the Eternals. There were a lot of people who hated it. Who hated it, who aren't into superhero movies. So one of my favorite lines is, "If you make God bleed, people will stop believing in it." So Eternals came out, and all these dudes were like, "Oh, this sucks. Oh, this sucks. Oh, this is boring. This sucks." And all these people got excited about it. Like there were people legit excited that it didn't get good reviews. They were excited about this. I thought that was so weird. And I would call them out on it. I was like, why are you so excited that this movie is getting bad reviews? I think that's counterproductive to the genre that you claim you love so much. We listen to hip hop. Right? Me and you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my bad. We listen to hip.
Yes, I do. I do, Task. I dabble.
I dabble a little bit there and there.
I dibble dabble.
People say all the time, mumble rap isn't rap. Mumble rap isn't rap. I don't like mumble rap, but I am not gonna tell you that it isn't rap.
Yeah, just not, not my flavor.
It's not my flavor, but it's definitely rap.
Yeah.
It's definitely music. I don't have to like it. I hate it. But I'm not going to say that's not rap. That's not factual. And that's what they do with these type of movies like Eternals. They say it's not movie. It's not a film. It's not that. No, it literally is. Either all of it is film or none of it is.
Yeah.
It's that simple to me. And I'm like, how can you just completely crap on someone's art like that and like be excited about this?
Yeah.
Also, another thing, Chloe Zhao is a woman of color. She represents progression. There are people out there who do not want that.
Yeah.
They're in high positions of power. And that's the reason why it is the way it is for years. And they don't want that to happen. And they will do whatever it takes to in that. One of the dudes, I have a phrase that people have used for years. I say Hayeki in references to Salma Hayek because this reviewer said something that just has resonated with me
Oh, I
for
remember this.
3 years. And that is so
Mhm.
important. That review is so important. He said Salma Hayek is in the movie who doesn't do anything, and she doesn't do anything Salma Hayek-y. I
What?
wish, because of course the guy doesn't have a Twitter because then he
Yeah.
would have to probably answer for his crimes. Um, I would love to ask that dude. I would love to sit him in a room, me and him, and we could record it on YouTube. And I want him to explain to me what that means.
Literally.
I want you to explain to me what Salma Hayek means and try not to say be sexy and Mexican. I want you to tell me what else do you mean by that? I mean, she looks sexy and Mexican to me, but him, like, apparently she wasn't. And so I'm just like, what do you mean by that? And this guy was in a top New York Post. This is one of the biggest names, and this is a guy giving the review, and he said she's not Salma Hayek. I'm
Like you
like,
said,
what
what the
does that
fuck does that
mean?
mean, dude?
Like, what does
Like,
that mean?
ugh.
You put that on a tomato meter. What does that mean? You didn't even give the movie a chance. You walked into the movie already saying you want to hate it.
Yeah.
You walked
Which a
into
lot
it.
of people did. I mean, we saw, like I said, at the top of this, we were banging the Eternal drum even before the movie came out. Because again, not where we're talking about how like people were hating it before they even saw it. We were loving it before we saw it, but not because we're like, oh, the movie's gonna be great, because we understood,
Yeah,
like we were talking about, the importance of Celestials,
yeah,
Eternals, all
yeah.
this stuff. So
Yes.
and I, like I said, you saw it just as much as I did. All these people that were actively trying to tear the movie down before it ever even came out.
Yeah.
Anything that was shown about it, they just tore it apart and just tried to make any kind of argument they have. But like you said, it's like, at least for me, I've seen a couple like good faith arguments, which I can, somewhat agree. Like some people saying, it was a little slower paced for me. Like
That's fine.
I didn't understand the characters, so like it
That's
didn't
fine.
really impact me, which is like I understand that, but
That's understandable.
most criticism I see is like you said, it's like, what do you mean by that? Like what,
Yeah.
what are you trying to say with this? Like, oh, like I don't know, like I've seen a bunch of Fastos shit, which it's like, who was a fan of Fastos before this movie? You know what I mean? Like, where the fuck are all these Fastos fans coming
A lot of
from?
cap, a lot of
Yeah.
lies. I hate to say it, but this is true. This is just facts. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
my therapist always tells me we have to remain fact based.
Mm-hmm.
There is not enough Eternals content out there.
They have three fucking runs
Let's
out of
be
like 60
clear.
years.
There is not enough Eternals content for people to act like there's like this sacred line
Yeah.
of this representation of like 300 issues and no, there's been 3 runs
And I think the third one is the one that just ended like
that
2 years
ended with
ago. So
Kieran.
before the movie, literally 2 runs. One was from Jack Kirby himself from like,
Mhm,
forever ago. And then
mhm,
we had what's his face? Gaiman.
mhm.
The Neil
No, actually,
Gaiman
so
run.
there was the Gaiman run that was great. The Gaiman
Hmm.
run doesn't get brought up enough.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really good.
there is the current run. There was another run in between that, in between like right before the game and
Gil-
stuff. But it was also a mini series. So
okay.
basically, all the content that we've gotten with Eternals, 90% of it has just been minis.
Yeah.
And so basically, and a lot of stuff that happened with the Neil Gaiman stuff also bled into the movie, where basically
Yeah.
they were on Earth already living their lives and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
the matter of fact, all the Neil Gaiman Marvel stuff doesn't get talked about. Like 1602 is great too.
Dude, slapping, dude. I love Gaiman. He's awesome.
1602 is great. It is so great that DC stole it and made it the government.
DC tends to do that a lot. Which, speaking of, we were talking about Fourth World. I gotta say, I don't know if you know this, but Fourth World was actually originally going to be a Thor
Thor.
story,
Mhm,
and it was going to be like a Ragnarok. And
mhm.
I know I wasn't even born when that happened, but I'm still salty about that. Like just thinking of what that could have been.
Yeah, rest in peace to Jack Kirby. I just wish that Kirby was the ultimate artist.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cautionary tale of sorts.
100%.
He just cared about the art.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care about the business side.
Which is where he got screwed.
Yes. I'm not gonna blame Stan Lee because I don't pick on the dead. Rest in peace, the dead. I don't know what
both
happened.
Legends.
Those two, both legends. Yeah,
both legends.
I don't know what happened, but Stan Lee made sure he got his.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Kirby didn't. But he, will forever be respected. His family will always be good. He'll always be a legend. And he just had great stories that just never came to fruition from it. And this was one of them. But he was doing his thing. I remember he was even kind of sort of doing stuff with Image Comics for a little bit.
Yeah, he was all. Yeah. That's the thing is, Kirby was at the end of the day through and through a storyteller. And I don't, like you were saying, I don't want to get into the weeds of the whole Stan and Jack thing. Like we said, we respect both of them. But what I will say is, whether or not Stan created as much as he says he did, or whether, whatever it is, the way I always looked at it is Kirby was the creative. Stan was the salesman. And you needed both. If you didn't have, let's just say under the assumption like Jack Kirby created all these characters completely by himself, let's say that's true, they would not have gotten to the point of where we're at now without Stan. Like Stan 100% is a fucking salesman. The whole hello true believer, like the dude can sell shit. And it's like if it wasn't for Stan, whether or not, again, whether those stories are true or not, it would not have become as popular, and the comic book industry would not have gotten to where it was today. So like I said, I think whether or not those stories are to be believed or whatever have you, they were both integral to all of this happening.
I agree. I write comic books on the side, and people tell me that I am the creator of Leaders of the Free World. And that's my comic that I have. And I always say it's kind of not fair to say that, because Eli, my partner, he designed it. He designed. I mean, sure, he went off of what I said, but when people think of those characters, they're thinking of his design.
Yeah,
and so he is the co-creator. I completely give him that. Like, bro, like this was a collaborative effort.
Yeah,
I didn't draw this. You did. So I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm the seller. And that's what Stan Lee was. People forget Stan Lee, before he was a comic creator, he worked in advertisement.
Yeah, which is obvious. Like it makes so much sense.
That makes sense. There were things that he would do. One of the things he really liked to do was have two things that started with the same letter. And to him, because he said, I had a really bad memory problem. And so to help me with those problems, I would name things that started with the same letter. Fantastic Four, Sue Storm, Reed Richards. Peter Parker, Matt Murdock, like things like that. Like he would always forget Iron Man's name because he didn't name him like that. Tony Stark, you know what I'm saying? Like, so things like that. So he was an advertiser. So the old Marvel way was Kirby and them would draw the stuff. Stan would put the voice to it. To me, both are important.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, both are important. You could draw a great character. Sweet. Why should I care?
Yeah.
Sweet. Why should I care? Okay, that's a great looking character. What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? And so the voice needed to be put into there. Like Reed being, really smart. Human Torch being a womanizer type thing. Ben Grimm being, Ben Grimm, which is basically just Kirby. Yeah, exactly. Like these are things that Stan Lee did. Calling it he named them the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
World's greatest comic magazine. That is his stance. That was him.
And imagine I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Imagine reading, like I've just recently, especially with the recent announcements, I've been reading a lot of old school Fantastic Four, a lot of the Stan and Jack stuff. And imagine reading those books without the little I don't want to say word bubble, but the little like description on the top from Stan, like, now we see our heroes in the, imagine reading it without that. Like, it would not be the same. Again, it's like, that's what even if, because I've heard stories that like basically Stan would give Jack an idea, right? Like, I want a story about a family that gets powers from space and like, go at it. And Jack would draw and he would do the dialogue and stuff. And then afterward, Stan would come and put in the little like, oh, our team, the most fantastical team in the universe, like all these little quips and shit. And it's like you said, both are needed. Like
both are needed.
It would not be what it is if it didn't have that. Whether, as great as the King is, right? But I mean, as well as I do, being a comic book creator, and all the creators that we've talked to on this channel have all said the same thing, but comics are a collaborative effort. And same with movies too, which is why when people shit on comic books and people shit on movies like this, it's very, especially, again, there are valid criticisms and I am 100% there for a good, valid discussion of, problems. But when you see these arguments coming from bad faith people and like, just like completely bad faith arguments, it's just so disrespectful to okay, yeah, you didn't like Kumail's character, right? But there was hundreds of people that worked on that movie to bring that thing to life. And it's like, you're shitting on all of those people.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like, why are you cheering for someone whose art they put a lot into? Why are you cheering for that to fail?
Especially if you're a supposed fan of comic books. Like
100%.
I don't get that.
Why are you cheering for it to fail? It's another thing to be like, damn, that movie sucks. For example, Madam Web. I mean, people are not watching it. People are not liking it. I'm not cheering for this.
Oh no, I wish it was great.
I wish it was great. I wish it was, but unfortunately, we already knew what time it was. But I'm not going to cheer about it. Like, that's a completely different thing. And this is a good segue to what Kumail was saying. Like, we have to put ourselves, people are like, man, why is he crying? I said, we got to put ourselves in his position. Imagine the biggest movie of all time just came out. You're a young up and comer. You're already a person of color. People are already looking at you crazy. They're not gonna like want to put you in these roles. And the biggest company in the world walks up to you and says, I want you in this. I want you a part of it. You're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm out of here. Oh, this is great.
It's my moment, baby.
Angelina Jolie is on this?
For real.
Salma Hayek is on this. Oh, I'm in the big leagues. I'm out of here. So let me close everything that I'm doing and just focus on my body and get swole and do all
got so fucking ripped, dude.
He talked about it. I loved it. He did an interview with Men's Health and he was like, I don't want to be considered the poster child of this. And I thought this was so great. And I think more people need to hear this. And he was like, because my lifestyle, I can afford to put the time and energy into this.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's not like no one else can do this, but I'm not a good example because I dedicated nothing to this. Like this was my job, was to get swole.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that, but I'm also aware of my privilege that I was able to take time off to do that. But that had to have been very taxing on him. And it had to have been very, he probably went to therapy just for that as well. And now imagine you do all that. You make this great film. It's fantastic. You're in a franchise that is Teflon at the time. You're out of here, right? No. And then it gets not only ripped on, but ripped to shreds. To the point where I had to ask sometimes, did we even watch the same movie?
No, dude, same. I was like, literally after that movie came out, I like had to question myself. I was like, am I just not seeing what everyone else, like, are they not, you know what I mean? I was just like, I was literally confused. Like, what am I? And I genuinely, me, Task. I try to always come at things from both angles. And like you said, I never like to shit on things. And like, I usually am pretty positive. I try to at least be positive. And it's like, but I genuinely do try to see like things from other people's perspectives, right? And it's like, I was literally sitting there like, okay, what is the criticism of this? And like, what am I not understanding here? And I really tried, but it's like, I just don't get it. A lot of, again, there are valid things with everything, right? Some valid criticism. I mentioned the Crow thing, right? But most of it is just like, again, I'm just like, I just do not. Am I crazy? Like, I'm like,
You're
what
not
is
crazy.
going
You're
on
not
here?
crazy. And that could go to a lot of things. I say that about Quantumania today.
Dude, we're gonna have to start a series on this because that's another one that I could go on and
we
on
could
about.
Do that. There'll be a dope idea for a podcast revisiting considered bad like comic book movies, and then just rewatching it and saying, "Was this really that bad?"
Yo, I think we got a new series on our hands.
Hey man, listen, I did that with the first two Fantastic Four movies. I did that when I watched Fat Thor Stick. I said nothing in the theater. I was just sitting there watching it. And when I walked out, my friend was like, "What'd you think about it?" I looked at him and I said, "Were the first two Fantastic Four movies that bad?"
Literally. Hey, I'll say that first one is not. I mean, I just saw you tweet about this the other day. I have beef with that movie on like a basic premise of like just how the production was all behind the scenes stuff. But if I can put that aside for a second, I don't think that movie is, as like you said, not as bad as people make it out to be. Not at all.
Right. And there's a difference between this movie is good or it's not as bad as folks are making.
I wouldn't say it's good, but
yeah, I'm not gonna say it's good, but there were a lot of redeeming qualities. I loved Michael Chiklis.
Dude, so great as the Thing.
Yes.
I thought Chris Evans was great as Johnny.
I thought Chris Evans was great.
Yeah.
And the Human Torch thing, their beef.
Their chemistry was great.
That was spot on. There were a few times when Chris Evans and Jessica Alba, they really did feel like brother and sister at times. Like they really felt that way. Like there was a time where she was like, "Shut up, God!" Like, get off my case. Like sometimes you forget they are brother and sister, and so I did get that element. Like when she was taking her clothes off to go invisible, she was like, like things like that. Like I appreciated stuff like that. So like when it comes to Eternals, one thing I did notice, I found it interesting, and it's current, and I think you know what I'm talking about because it's currently happening with the Marvels.
Oh my God! Again, another one we're gonna add to our list on our new series.
You know what? I don't want to do the Marvels, and let me tell you why. Seeing all the responses and everything to it, I'm like, y'all didn't even watch this movie, huh?
No, 100%.
And a lot of people are coming out saying, "Wow, that was actually decent." And I don't get mad at people who do that. I used to get mad. I was upset. Like, dude, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Like, how dare you guys allow this movie to be the one that, satisfied the grifters? Because they think that it's pandering. They call it woke. And they always have the saying, you go woke, you go broke. And then this movie does terrible. And now they're like, ha, see, we were right. We were right. While me and you know they're wrong, I can see someone looking at that and be like, well, that's what happened. They said that's what happened. That's what happened. Maybe this woke stuff is a bad idea. And as a person of color, that sucks because we want more people to want to be a part of this. We want more people to see this and be like, hey, this is something that I can get into. This is something I can enjoy. But seeing everything Nia DaCosta and that group went through, I could see people being like, I'm cool. I'm cool. And think of it like this. Look at all the crap Nia DaCosta got for the Marvels. Do we even know the name of the Madam Web director?
For real.
Do we even know the name? I ain't seen ever do one interview.
I have no idea who it is. Absolutely none.
But they made sure to talk about Nia DaCosta.
Yeah.
Like, all the time.
Shit is so fucking dirty, dude. I hate it. So, and like you said, that's the most frustrating thing about it is, like you said, is then those same people take it and are like, see, I told you, like, look, this is exactly what we're talking about, when we both know there's a lot of other factors at play with that. And I'll say too, just very quickly before we wrap this up on the Eternals too, is I don't think I've been reviewing movies and working in press for about 2 years now. I did Quantum Mania, I did Guardians, I did the Marvel, I've done, bunch of Creed 3, bunch of movies and shit. I have never, ever, in any movie, show, or anything that I've reviewed, have gotten comments like I did on the Marvels when I posted my, when the social media embargo lifted and I posted my reaction. I have never gotten comments like I did on the Marvels. And on my tweet in the Marvels, I didn't even say if it was good or bad. I literally just said I had fun watching this, and
it doesn't matter.
It was just ridiculous. And I'll also say too, again, I'm not going to name names here, but I saw one of the biggest one of these go woke, go broke MCU motherfuckers front row at my screening, sitting there with his fucking popcorn bucket, ready to fucking watch the shit. And I'm like, again, like you said, it's all a grift. Like, maybe he didn't like it, right? Like, maybe he didn't, but it's like, you are still here, fucking not even opening night, premiere night. And
I'm gonna tell you, those people, they're the biggest fans.
No, literally,
they are. And let me tell you why. You go to their Twitter, their YouTube pages, that's all they talk about. Actually, they talk about the MCU more than I do.
Yeah, and I have a fucking Marvel podcast, like a comic book podcast.
And I'm considered the Marvel guy online. I don't even know how I got that tag. Like, it's so funny to me. People are like, oh, you're always on Marvel. I'm like, am I the only one? Why?
Yeah.
I was like, what am I saying that no one else is saying? That's another thing I tell people. You got to think, why am I getting so much smoke for that? I mean, you got to ask yourself, I'm not saying I'm doing anything different than what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm doing anything else, but people come for me. And they always make
racist
jokes every now and then.
And not only that, but they'll say like, "Oh, you don't know what you're fucking talking about," or "Do you even read comics, Task?" Shit like that.
I let that grip go. I let that go. Yes, I read a shit ton. Yes, I do. I've been reading comics for 37 years now. So I tell people, you got to understand something. I've been repping this stuff longer than you've been alive.
Yeah, like we talked about, for some of us, like me and you, it's like we can tell when you're fucking new here. You know what I mean? Like, just based off what people say, it's like, okay, I can tell that you fucking Googled the Eternal, whatever it was, saw the first little sentence that you saw, and like you just ran with that.
You just ran with that. Like, that's what we're going with.
Yeah, it's like so easy to pick those people out.
And I tell people, you got to watch people like that, like the Denim Nerds guy. I have no problem saying names. Fuck them. I got a problem. That's why they're scared of me. They're scared of me because I'm not backed by nobody.
Yeah.
A lot of people, no offense to like you or anybody, you got other people above you. So you got to, like, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem. And I'm just like, that's why I'll be like, I'm the voice. Like, you don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. I'll say it for you. And nothing's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So I tell them, I'm like, yo, like, you got to watch people like him because they have built their platform off of hating Marvel. It does not benefit them to actually like it because they have built their legion off of hating that. And so if there's anything that he does like, he can't talk about it.
Literally cannot. Like,
he can't tell them about it because then he's going to lose fans. One of the greatest examples. Look what's going on with Tyrone. That Tyrone Big, whatever that dude's name is.
Oh, dude,
I tell people, like we need to study this thing because that wasn't his content at first.
No, dude used to be normal. I mean, relatively, at least. Like, I wasn't his biggest fan or anything, but it was one of those things, like, once he became a grifter, I was like, oh, I've seen this dude's videos before. You know what I mean? Not like I knew him by name, but I'm like, I definitely have watched this dude's content before. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I thought...
Oh, yeah. This is why I don't like the reaction video people.
Oh, dude.
I'm not a fan of reactions. I'm an old man. Call me old man yelling at the cloud. Okay, fine. I don't understand them. I don't understand why watching the dude go, what? I want to watch. But I want to watch that. But okay, fine. You know, to each their own. But my problem with things like that is that it just comes off fake and non-genuine to me, because this dude Tyrone is straight up contradicting himself from his old comments and his old stuff that he would say. But now he's talking about this, and he's talking about woke. They woke it up, blah, 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 blah. And you have to ask yourself, what happened? Now, I'll tell you what happened. He realized, oh, I get a bigger following doing this. That's all he cares about.
Saw them views go up like that, and it was over.
These people are not genuine to me because they have to keep up with something. This is their job. This is their job.
Literally.
So they have to keep up these type of narratives to pay their bills. And that's why a lot of people trust me, because I tell them, look, man, I don't get paid for this. I don't get a dime for this. Every day, Elon is sending me messages like, hey, this thing did really well in tweets. You're missing out on revenue. I'll never do it. I'll never do it. And let me tell you why. I have integrity. First of all, fuck Elon Musk. I don't want your money, bro. Not all money is good money. I remember an OG told me that. I never understood what that meant. I never understood. I was like, how is money not good? And then the older I got, I said, I get exactly what you're saying now. Not all money is good money. I don't want to make money off of a person who is okay with other people calling people the N-word and call, they're saying Nazis should have a voice. I wouldn't work with no one like that. I have integrity. And so I just stay away from that. But these people, they just want popularity. They want clout. So they have to keep up with that. That's why, excuse me, there are dudes whose whole persona online is just ripping the MCU. That's all they do.
That's literally their entire thing.
Yes, and this is something I tell people all the time. Being an MCU fan is weird because people legit hate that you're a fan.
Literally.
Hate that you are. Like, why are you so invested in what I like? What I like and what I watch does not affect you in the slightest. In the slightest. And you are just here. You're hopping in people's comments. You're screaming about this, saying you need to watch better films. You do not care what movies I do and don't watch.
Like, what the fuck do you care?
I do not care. I'll answer that question for you. When you say, why the fuck do you care? They don't. They don't care. They're doing it because they realize, oh, ripping on the MCU gets us views.
Gets the clicks.
Get its clicks. And that's all they care about. And that's what happened with Variety. And that's why that was disgusting.
Bro, fuck Variety. I cannot even take anything they say seriously anymore.
Was nasty.
Like
was nasty. That woman put out that piece that was completely debunked like immediately.
It was a straight up hit piece. Straight up. Like, no.
It was a straight up hit piece. And it was filled with non-truth. It was filled with things that weren't true, that people who actually worked on the film had to chime in and be like, what is this person talking about? That didn't happen. What is this person talking about? Then they tried to make it, and I don't understand this. No, I understand it, unfortunately. But, they said, oh, Nia DaCosta didn't come to the crew viewing. And they made a whole
doing other shit.
They made a whole article about that. And I was like, why? And the crew viewing was like 3 months ago. I'm like, I have questions. Why are you doing this? Like, this is weird. Like, why are you doing? I've never seen you do this with any other director. Other directors had to chime in and be like, I didn't come to mine either.
They're like, I didn't do that.
Because, and then you find out why. They said, oh, well, this movie got postponed like 5-6 times. She had to leave to go do another movie. And then they tried to say, oh, when she finished the film, she was already working on another film. And it was like, dude, so many people have done that.
Literally every filmmaker, probably. Like, every single one of them.
Dude, Steven Spielberg did that for Jurassic Park. That's why Jurassic Park and Schindler's List came out the same year.
Or I remember the most recent example, James Gunn. He finished up Peacemaker when he was was finishing Guardians while doing Peacemaker, or vice versa, one of the two. That shit happens all the time.
Yeah, he was working on Guardians, and he needed to film the scene at the end of Peacemaker where the Justice League comes together. He filmed that on the Guardian set.
Yeah.
And, he said that was fine. They were like, wow, that was nice you guys did that for DC. He was like, well, it's the least that they could do because we did it for Marvel. Because the guy that, I keep forgetting his name. I couldn't, because he's a great actor. The guy that played High Evolutionary. Yeah, he's great. Oh, he's fantastic.
So good.
He did his audition for High Evolutionary on the Peacemaker set.
Yeah.
So,
which, duh. Like, it's like, again, silly fucking comments, like silly fucking criticism. Doesn't make fucking sense. Everyone does that, but we know the real reason why.
Yeah.
And it's just
about it was that Variety praised the Gun for doing it.
Yeah.
They praised Gun for doing that. They were like, wow, what a way for him to keep on top of things and keep things going. But with her, now it's questionable. And I'm like, and y'all did this to a black woman.
Dude.
I don't expect you to get it. This is not a rip on you.
No, yeah, I expect
you to get. I mean, I know you think it's wrong.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I took that really personally. Like, why are y'all doing this to this black woman? Why are y'all doing this? Now, other black women are probably looking at that like, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to hit piece on me for different things like that. And they're discouraging them. And it's very, very disheartening. And while I see people watch the Marvels and they're enjoying it now, there's a part of me that really wants to be pissed.
Yeah, it's hard not to be. I mean, like you said, knowing all of what went down. And again, I won't even begin to try and say like I fully understand the scope of all that, but it just, again, everything. Yeah, it's like, I know it's wrong and I know that it's fucking bullshit. And it's just like, it's just so disgusting that this is what we're dealing with. And like you said, it's just so damaging to not only the film industry, but all up and coming filmmakers. And it like we talked about on our last episode, we've talked about in this, it just all comes down to, in my mind, just people being fucking threatened and not knowing how to cope with that. And not only that, but I think it's also a thing of everyone's always shooting for the top dog, right? And it's like, you can fucking talk as much shit about Marvel and all these movies as much as you want, but they're at the fucking top. Who's coming out to the fucking movie theaters? MCU fans. Who's fucking doing all this shit? Nerds, Marvel fans. It's like, you can talk all the shit you want, but at the end of the day, Marvel's fucking killing it. So I think all of these, outlets, all of these other directors and these other actors even that are like, oh, well, those aren't real movie. Or I think it was Jodie Foster just had some shit about like, oh, like these super, whatever it is, just like, I don't know, it just comes off as jealousy. Like, just
it's
comes out very
jealousy.
jealous, like, oh, like, they're doing this with these stupid movies, but my movie that's so intellectual and whatever did fucking shit. It's like, well, maybe you just made a fucking shit movie. Maybe, yeah, ever think about that?
100%. Everyone got a movie that's a dud. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has one. Like, even The Rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone has a movie that's a dud. And this is what it is. It's 100% like they're hating on comic book movie films, because let's be clear, they don't have that smoke for horror films. You don't hear them saying, man, horror films aren't real films.
Yeah.
They're not saying that.
Or comedies, which I'm sure they did at one point, which it's like,
I mean, I'm trying to look at it. I'm trying to look at it, and I'm like, I don't know. I saw Wes Craven getting, props. I see Rob Zombie was getting props for his horror stuff. Like, I'm like, what is the difference? And I'll tell you what the difference is: the money. Now we're talking. Now, it's if comic book movies didn't make billions of dollars,
no one would give a shit.
Conversations.
Yeah,
we're not. And they were making like horror movie money, even though horror is making a great comeback. I'm not a big horror fan, but I love the art of creating something. And horror is making a great comeback because you could do a lot of great stuff and you could put the money into the horror elements and not to the actors, because no one cares about the actors. They're going to die. It's like, you can just get some people off the street, be like, yo, they want to die real quick?
You want to fake die on camera really quick?
I'll pay you. It's like, sweet.
Yeah.
But with Eternals, they put a lot of money into it. They put a lot of time into it. So yeah, I could see Kamal being like, yeah, that hurt. And and while it's sad, I appreciate it. And let me tell you why I appreciate it. I told people I feel bad that he feels that way, but I also like that he did this. And let me tell you why. In Hollywood, these people are fake.
Mm-hmm.
They're fake. They are building themselves off an image, so they have to maintain that fake Hollywood image. Kamal saying that was very human.
Mm-hmm.
It was a human reaction. That was something that we can relate to. That is something that I'm pretty sure he was not the only one who was a part of that film. He wasn't the only one that was disappointed like that. He probably wasn't even the only one that went to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the only one talking about it.
Yeah.
And one thing I think is important as men is that we need to talk about how things affect our mental health and going to therapy. I am 100% advocate of that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men don't go to therapy because we don't talk about it. Like dudes will go to therapy and not say anything. I say it all the time. I mentioned it like twice in just this conversation. Like as men, we are taught we have to be strong all the time. And we can't have mental health problems. And that's why the highest suicide rate are men. Like, because we're taught we can't release that stuff. We have to bottle it all in. And that was probably too much for him.
Yeah.
Because he went through so much for that role. He went through so much. He went through rigorous, intense, like training. He probably got into an argument with his wife about it. His wife was probably like, we don't know these things.
Yeah. Well, he even mentioned in that when he was talking about it that it was really like putting a strain on his relationship with like his wife and everything.
Yes.
And I remember too, again, I know that you remember this as well, but like before he got super buff and was like, super shredded, when he was announced for the movie, people were already giving him shit because it's like, oh, this is the comedy guy, right? Like, what the fuck? He's going to be a superhero. And then he gets buff, and then people fucking talk shit about that too. So it's like,
they never saying that he was like taking steroids and all that stuff. He had to come and break that up. Like, no, I did not. I took a year and a half off.
Which even if he did, let me tell you all a secret. All of them fuckers are on steroids. Most 99% of them are on steroids, and I have no problem with that. It's like we were talking about. Their job is to fucking look buff. Like that's what they're getting paid to look a certain way. I mean, that could be a whole different topic of discussion, but in my mind, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, you look at you think Stallone in fucking Rambo wasn't juiced to the fucking gills? Come on now. Like, come on.
I mean, when it comes to Marvel, we can't even talk about like people being on the sauce because that was literally Captain America.
Yeah, no, like I said, they're all sauced up, bro. Chris Hemsworth in Love and Thunder in that fucking tank. Again, juice to the fucking gills, my dude. Like
I'm pretty sure he's on that Feige regimen.
Bro, he was sweating roids. My man was sweating them out.
He's dripping out of him.
Yeah, literally. But like I said, it's like that's
another movie.
Job.
I get in trouble for this, but that's another movie I thought got way too much hate. Like,
hey man, like I said, we got to start a whole series on this because we gotta do this all.
I don't know if I'm the person
for all of these, bro. No, you are, man. You are. I don't think sure.
I am. Because I do defend it too much. People have told me that. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do. I'm open to being biased about this because this comic book stuff, especially with Marvel, is my life. Like it's like it saved my life. This is different than I just like this.
Yeah.
I come from the block. I'm from the hood. And I instead of picking up a gun, I picked up a comic book. Like that's what I did. And I would go to the grocery store and help old ladies carry bags for quarters and stuff like that. And I would go, I'll never forget, I had like a bunch of quarters and I walk up to the person and I'll drop it all on the table and he would
feel like a fucking king.
He would count it and he'd be like, all right, you can get one. I'll be like, all right. And I'll go and get one, read it. And I'm like, dude, I need the next issue. And then he was like, well, those people need help with their bags. You know what you got to do. So I went out there and got it. I went out there to do it. And like, this has been my life ever since when I saw that. It all started when my mom got me an X-Men comic, and I just wanted more. Like that became my life
Mhm.
ever since. Now, how many people could say that they discovered their quote unquote purpose in life when they were like 4 or 5?
Yeah.
You know, that was me. And so when I defend these movies, I defend it. People are like, oh, you defend it with your life. I was like, this is my life.
Mhm.
This,
Yeah.
this is my life. I don't have a website because this is just a popular thing to do.
Mhm.
I don't have a podcast because this is just something that's popular. I do it because this is literally my life.
Yeah. And
You look at any of my old pictures, I'm probably got a comic book in my hand.
yeah. And I mean, we both, we had very different upbringings, you and me, and all that. But I mean, we do this shit. You know
Yes,
what I
we
mean?
do.
Like, we really fucking do this shit. And like you said, it's like, yeah, I will always admit that I am biased. Like,
Yes.
especially Thor stuff. Like, yes, I am
Yes,
biased.
you are. I will tell
Yes,
you that.
I am biased, and I will
Wear that
freely admit
badge.
that. Yes,
Wear
I
proud.
will admit that. I will be proud of that. But like I said, I think you bring up a great point. The reason why this is so important to us, and it is, we do take it kind of seriously, is because, like you said, this has been a big portion of our lives. And like I said, we really do this shit. We were the ones before there was an MCU, before there was any of this shit. We were
in the trenches,
the Wednesday Warriors,
We were in the trenches.
Yes, we were in the fucking trenches, dude.
We were in
So
the trenches.
it's like when we see these again, when we're talking about, we can tell you're fucking new here. When we see these newbies coming in, talking like they understand this shit when they don't know what and that's like, again, we can very clearly see they don't know what they're talking about. It does get frustrating, and it's hard not to just be like, dude, fuck you, right? Like,
well, yeah,
it
and
makes it very, very hard.
I let people cook sometimes, but when I see that the narrative is being picked up, because one thing I know about this new generation, they believe everything that's on the internet. If it's on the internet, they're just like, oh, that means it must be true. I had to say something just right before the podcast. This dude talked about how I can't believe Kang was defeated by ants. Now, both of us know
another stupid comment.
Both of us know that they weren't just ants; they were futuristic ants, and they were the same size as them. Words are important here.
Yeah.
So if someone hasn't watched Quantumania and they're told, "Oh, he's defeated by ants," that sounds crazy.
Yeah. Which is like, did we forget the entire fucking fight with him and Scott afterward?
No,
like, where they fucking fist fight? Like,
let's get there. We're not even there yet. We're not even there yet. People keep saying ants. They don't talk about, they were in the quantum realm, so they were the same size as the ants.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how
and they were like 1,000 years advanced, like something crazy like that. They had like ships and shit, dude.
Yes, I'm like, bro, do you realize that if ants turned on us, we're all dead?
Dude, I forgot. I was gonna say, are you gonna throw out the stat right now? Like something like
of ants
to every person, like something crazy like that.
Yes, like there's like 1 million ants per person, and if they wanted to kill us all, they would. What would we do? They would just crawl over us and pick us apart like it's nothing.
Plus, Task, inform the people at home and me really quickly. What's the name of the movie again? What's the name of the hero?
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. And you're saying that he beat the villain with ants?
Which is insane to me. I'm like, what the hell else was supposed to beat him with Thor's hammer? Like, I'm confused. Like,
no fucking shit. Also, oh man, like I said, we gotta start a series on all this, because we can talk all day about Quantumania, Thor: Love and Thunder, the Marvel, all that shit. We got to come back. We got to reach around and do this again. But
we can keep talking about it. For example, they kept calling it the nanotech helmet, and I'm like, where's the nanotech?
Yeah,
where's the nanotech? Oh, when he takes it off the cup. Okay, but that's not nanotech. That's like PIM particle stuff. Words are important here. Words are important. So people were taking these terms and saying it. And another dude was like, yeah, Ant-Man, Kang was defeated by ants. And I say, no, that's not what happened. Did you watch the movie? Like, because I refuse to believe if you actually watched the movie, you would say that. Unless you saw someone else say that and got a lot of clicks. And you want to do that too.
Yeah, literally.
Look at the Tiamut thing. They can look at Tiamut. Every now and then people figure out, oh, are they ever going to explain this? Even though they did.
Yeah.
They want to see it in the
Every
movie.
time someone says shit, I literally am just like She-Hulk. Like, boom, done. Like, your argument's fucking done, dude. They did mention
then what they do is they inject themselves with super soldier serum and pick up the goalpost and then they move it. And then they say, oh, well, we want it in a movie. We want it seen. I'm like,
it's like patience, everyone, which I think this is a perfect segue to end off the Eternals talk with Tiamut, because I think that's another very silly criticism. And like you were talking about, like, oh, well, there's a huge fucking celestial in the ocean. No one's bringing that up. You know, blah, blah. First of all, it was brought up in She-Hulk. It's a newspaper clipping. Second of all, okay, let's just think about this critically for just a second. What project since Eternals would have been a good opportunity to bring that up? Please tell me where, you know, and not only that, but if they did bring it up, then it would be the complaint would be like, oh, so an entire celestial comes out of the ocean and all they're going to say about it is a quick little comment, you know, whatever it is. It's like, dude, I like to think about
physically go there.
I like to think about it like the Sokovia and what's it called? Avengers Age of Ultron, right? Like the destruction of Sokovia, right? And then we saw the response to that in Civil War, the consequences of that. And something like we were talking about, the importance of celestials and all this stuff that we've been talking about, something as big as a celestial coming out into the ocean, that deserves more than just a brief mention. Like when that comes back, that is going to be basically the plot of a whole fucking movie is what are the consequences of that? What were the consequences of not only stopping Tiamut, but what are the consequences of him being there? And who are the interested parties in this whole thing? It's like we cannot do that in a quick passing comment or a quick little mention. And again, it's like if we did, then everyone would complain about that. So it's like patience, everybody. They're not going to forget about it. Like people feel like Kevin Feige has like dementia or something. Like, he's not going to forget. We all know that he's fucking there. We will get to it, right? It's like,
there's a lot of, you know, it's funny, you know, people get, once again, I'm blocked a lot. And let me tell people, I get big. They're like, damn, Corey, a lot of people block you. I said, oh, let me tell you why. It's because these people have built their platforms off of lies. They have built their platforms off of saying things like that. And then you get someone like me that is like, either that's not true, or here are other plot threads that no one brought up that also fits the same narrative. So how come you're not bringing that up? For example, in Guardians 2, at the end, you know, when he's fighting his dad, there's a giant blob that ate a whole city.
Yeah. Why is no one talking about that, right?
Wanda took over a town.
Yeah, let's keep the same energy across the board here, right?
Why are we only talking about this one thing? What? No, a former Avenger went evil. No one is talking about this. But why? But why is this one not talked about, but it's Tiamut? Let me tell you why. Because people have already put that narrative that Eternals was bad. And so they bring up Tiamut, and I was like, yeah. How can you do that? How can you do that? You know? And I'm shocked at how many people honestly haven't watched Eternals. Yeah, they seem to always talk about it. I said that to a guy. Guy was talking shit, and then he said he never even watched it. I was like, this is a lot of energy for a movie you haven't watched, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this is a lot of, I was like, you don't find that weird at all? That's a lot of energy towards something that you have not even partaked in yourself. I've never watched the Harry Potter movies. Harry Potter is just not my thing. That's just not my thing. But I'm not going to go to the Harry Potter fandom and be like, man, fuck this shit.
Yeah, like, fuck you guys.
Why would I do that? That just seems ridiculous. And so I say that to him, like, you don't feel silly doing this?
Yeah.
You know, like, this is a lot of energy. I had a guy attack me recently who wrote a comic book. He's writing a comic book. And he kept coming at me about the MCU stuff. I said, you know what, bro? Let me be clear with you. You just wasted 6 tweets on me about something that you're not even invested in that could have been used to promote your book. You could have been promoting your book. You could have been convincing me why I should be reading your book. Instead, you arguing me about something you don't even partake in. Does that make sense to you?
Weird ass fucking
You blocked me.
energy.
You know
Dude.
what? That's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. Because
That's
sometimes the truth is hard.
Yeah, I was
It's
saying
hard.
that's a good block though. You don't need that. Like I said, it's so fucking stupid, man. It's so
Listen,
fucking
when the smoke
stupid.
clears, I tell people because I don't get that emotional. People think I do. I don't. I can't get that emotional over something I don't own.
Mhm.
I don't own this stuff. Like I love it. I'm passionate about it, but I'm not going to block you because you have a different opinion about it than I do. Like it's not that serious to me to the point where I'm like, y'all don't care that much. Like, look at this stuff with Morph. Y'all don't give a shit
Oh
that
my
much.
god.
You don't care. It's just, especially that's another thing I'm getting blocked a bunch of times because I'm showing people, Morph has been considered non-binary longer than he has.
Yeah, literally. And I don't even know much about the character, but I know that.
Morph was born a blob.
Yeah.
Morph was you know Pokemon a little bit, right?
Yeah. I
You
know
know
the
what Ditto?
basics of Morph. Yeah, Ditto, yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what Morph was. They were born a blob, and they talk about it. And what's great about it is when I talked about it, a lot of trans people, non-binary people, LGBTQ people hopped into my message. They were like, "Wow, we didn't know that Morph had this much depth." And I was like, "Exactly. Morph was born a blob, and Morph had like his mom. Their mom was like a person of color of some sort, but Morph talked about I couldn't, to make my parents happy, I became the all-American blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy. And I'm like, how relatable is that?
Literally, like
With
the fucking
people,
layers to that.
yes, there's a guy I know, my wife knows him. He is obviously gay. We've seen him with gay people. We've seen him with boyfriends and everything. And like I always say, I'm happy for you using living your truth. That is your truth. That's what it is. It's not up for us to agree with it or understand. If that's what makes you comfortable, then that's great. One day he showed up and he was like, pretty much, I'm not gay anymore. I'm staying with my parents. I'm all about God. And God doesn't like gay. That pissed me off. I was upset about that. I was really upset about that because I'm like, how are you going to let someone else tell you your truth?
Yeah.
That's not your truth. What you are doing, you're making yourself something that you're not to appease someone else. And that's exactly what Morph is. They were the type of people that would always throw themselves in front, always try to protect everybody. And they were talking about, when they were talking about their origin, they were like, I've always been a person pleaser. I need everybody to like me. That hit me because that's the type of person I was.
Yeah.
I needed everybody to like me. I would do things to like put myself in a better light for other people, but I wasn't being myself. And once again, I could relate to that. And people who are the LGBTQ community could definitely relate more than that than I could.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I love about this comic book stuff we do is it's the ultimate like thing that could bring us together. I've never talked to so many LGBTQ people in my life until I started talking about comic book stuff. And a lot of them say, thank you for doing it. It's weird to me because I'm like, I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I could care less. You like comic books? Dope. So do I.
Yeah, good people are good people. That's all it is to it. And it's
We're
like,
all just human, man.
yeah.
And in all honesty, it is not my business who you're fucking.
Yeah, it's none of my business. And like you said, everyone deserves to be. I think everyone deserves to be 100% truly themselves.
Yes,
and if you're not doing that, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And
you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing everyone else a disservice because now they're thinking everyone needs to be appealing to them.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I'm just a voice for that. Even at my job that I do now, I deal with a lot of business people. And I'll never forget, I did a thing for a guy whose name was spelled Jorge, which is Jorge. Matter of fact, remember when I did the trip in LA? That's where I went to. I went to that guy, his name was Jorge. And I went to go shake his hand when I met him. He says, "Hi, I'm George." I was like, "Hi, George," and he was a Latino man, and I shook his hand, and when I got set up at my job, I felt uncomfortable. So I walked into his office and I said, "Yo, can I speak to you for a second?" And he was like, sure. So I closed the door. I said, is your name really Jorge? And he was like, well, I was born Jorge, but I tell people I'm George. And I said, why? I was so confused. I was like, well, why? That's not your name. And he was like, well, it makes people more comfortable.
Yeah. I
I
hate
was like,
that
look,
so
bro.
much.
Look, bro. I said, let me talk to you, man. Is your name Jorge? He was like, yes. I said, did your mom name you Jorge? He was like, yes. I said, I'm calling you Jorge. It's your name. I'm not going to call you something that's not your name.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, that'd be like me coming up to you saying, yeah, I'm Task. Well, that's my nickname. That's what I tell people to make them feel good. No. 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 It's Corey. We're in business here. Like, that's a nickname. I'm not calling you George. I'm calling you Jorge.
Yeah.
And he appreciated it. And it's just things like that. And that's what makes the X-Men so interesting. Ian McKellen, who played Magneto, the gay man, he gave a lot of input onto how being a mutant is relatable to being gay. One of my favorite lines for I hate the X-Men movies, by the way, but there were some cool moments. One of them was in the X-Men 2 when the mom says, have you tried not being a mutant? That was something that Ian McKellen said that he went through himself.
Yeah.
People, have you tried not being gay? Like, something like that. Like, there's a perfect allegory. So that's when people say the X-Men are woke. I just find that so confusing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another reason why, for us and for a lot of people, why, again, we do take this stuff very seriously. And, it is important because I think we find through these stories of these fictional people that, like you said, we not only are we all human, but we are all a lot more similar than we think we are. And like you were saying with, LGBT people or LGBTQ people and, talking about not being people pleasing and stuff like that is something that is universal that all of us experience. And it's like, yes, they experience it at a much higher level, but there's again, and with Magneto and Ian McKellen and him, relating that the experience of being a mutant to the experience of being gay. And it's like, again, like, yes, we're seeing it from these kind of fantastical perspectives of these people with superpowers, but again, it's showing us that we are all a lot more alike than we think we are or that we want to give ourselves credit for. And I think that coming back around to kind of end this conversation about Eternals, I think that's another thing that Eternals does so well in representing. And like we were talking about the relationship between humans and gods, I think that's something the Eternals realize throughout the film is that we are a lot closer to these humans than we originally thought that we were. Like we talked about, the snap made Ajak realize these people are special. And I think, like I said, that's a theme that not only the Eternals showcases, but comic books in general showcase. And that's, again, why we take this stuff so seriously and why 100%. It is so important to have 100%. Diversity, to have inclusion, to have everyone be present and at the party. Like, that's what it's all about.
And people are scared of that.
That's the thing, yeah.
I worked at a comic book shop too, and I had to deal with a lot of racism. I had no problem talking about this. I actually got fired because of something like that. I'll make it quick. So basically, the owner of the job was telling me that I need you to do this, because he was leaving for the day. So I was like, okay, I was making sure. I said, okay, I'll make sure to do all that. And when I finished, one of the customers was a complete asshole. Like, dude was a dick. He would always come in and make little bullshit comments. He turns to me and says, yeah, get to it, Toby.
Oh, hell no. He fucking said that to you, dude?
So we have to do our due diligence here, Thor. We have to do our due diligence here because we can't assume that everyone who's listens to this podcast knows what that means. So
say, I'll let you explain that one.
No, we have to do our due diligence here because I said that to one person. He was like, "What does that mean?" So there's a movie called Roots. Came out in 70s, 80s, one of those two things. And in the movie, there's a slave named Kunta Kinte. They said that we're giving you an American name. Your name is no longer Kunta Kinte. It is Toby. And Kunta Kinte was like, "No, I'm not taking. That's not my name." And they would beat him and whip him and say, "Your name is Toby. Say your name is Toby." He's like, "No, I'm Kunta Kinte." They kept beating him. So basically, long story short, he's calling me a slave. And I'm not the most violent man on the planet, but I did grab him by the neck
I would say I would have went fucking nuts, dude. I
and
don't.
like choked him, and everyone pulled me off of him, and I got fired. And I said, I am perfectly okay with that. People were like, "You're stupid. You lost your job." And once again, this goes to integrity. You're not going to disrespect me.
Yeah, some things are more important than the fucking job.
Not all money is good money. I'm not going to
Correct.
stay getting paid at a place where they think that's okay for someone to call me that.
Mhm. And not only think
just-
it's okay, but to then you get the repercussions of that. Like if they don't understand, if they are willing to fire you over that, then it's I don't want to
Okay.
fucking work there. Yeah,
Okay.
like
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
100%. I was like, I was okay with it because I worked there for years and all he cared about was the money. So okay, you're already letting me know what's important to you. And that's
Mhm.
more important to you other than me and being comfortable as your employee. So I'm cool with that.
Mm.
And so we ended up leaving. I ended up having to leave. But yeah, things like that I fight for. I fight for things like that. And while me and you will never understand the how it is to be like an LGBTQ person, to see them relate to something like that, something that I could relate to too as a black man or whatever, you're the Muslim faith, right?
Yeah.
Okay. People probably say things about you as a white Muslim guy, right? It's like they're like, wow, like what makes you do this, blah blah blah. We all have things that we're into that people are against, and we can all relate to it different ways through things like the X-Men.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate. So even if someone has never had that, they could read that and be like, man, that reminds me of my friend who's gay. He said something like that too. So I'm like, that's what I love about superheroes. That's what I love about comic books is that they put things in a way that makes people understand things that they originally would not have.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got more LGBTQ people
Mhm.
talking to me than ever. I never understood their plight. I never understood what they went through. But listening to them talk to me, I was like, okay, I understand now. I'll never fully understand experience, but I could feel your pain and I could feel why that happened to you. And I could feel like, how this affected you. And that's what I love the most about it. And I
Yeah.
always say, I don't expect other people to understand that. But
Mhm.
for me, for myself, that is my goal.
Yeah, I could not echo you more, my man. I agree 100%. I think, like I said, that's why comics are so popular. People can talk all the shit they want, saying like, "Oh, comics have gone woke and blah blah blah." This has always been what comics have been. It's always been about exposing ourselves to other people and other perspectives and seeing how, like, someone from the planet Krypton, you know what I mean, like championing for the little guy and the voice for people who don't have a voice. Comics have always been like that, and I don't give a fuck who tells you any different. They're fucking lying to you. They're lying. Yeah,
Like once again, we have to remain fact based.
yes.
Stan Lee was talking about this in the '60s.
Dude, there's so many again, it's like there's so many examples of Stan and Jack and Ditko and literally the architects of all of this speaking about all this kind of stuff again. So if anyone tries to tell you that comics are going woke or the MCU is going or MCU, you can be sure that they're a fucking idiot and they don't know what they're fucking talking about at all.
MCU makes me mad. It makes me laugh because I'm like, okay, what's the problem? I like women.
Yeah, more powerful, strong women. Like I don't
like
understand.
Women.
What are we complaining about?
What are we complaining about? That's why when people are mad about the She-Hulk shaking ass, I'm like, I like ass and superheroes. What's the?
And it's like, even if it's like that's again, like that's not your thing. It's like the scene is obviously meant to be fun. Like, when did we stop having fucking fun here? You know what I mean? Like, people take it so damn serious.
Clout for hating on fun.
Literally.
That's when I told people once they monetized hate, it was over.
Over. Fun went out the window.
Yeah, once hate got monetized, like now people have to push that narrative. They had to push that, like different things. For example, like Pedro Pascal just got the role for Mr. Fantastic. And, it's funny seeing all the complaints about it. One of the biggest complaints I've seen, and this is why I say, like, you guys are all just regurgitating the same stuff. One of the biggest things they say is, "Oh, well, he's too popular." I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
He's good at his job? Like, what?
Like, how is that? No, he's good. How's that a bad thing?
Yeah.
How is that bad? Like, you're failing to explain to me, how is this bad? Like, and then the guy was like, well, we would prefer it, if they got a no name, Marvel doesn't do that. And I'm like,
who the fuck was Chris Hemsworth before Thor?
No. Let's start from the beginning. Robert Downey Jr.,
bro,
L. Jackson, ScarJo, fucking Ed Norton. What are we talking about?
Dude.
What are we?
Ed Norton, man. That's a deep cut, but like that's a great point. Like, bro,
that's what it was built off of. Tommy Lee Jones, things like that. Like, I'm like, these guys were big names and they started out this way.
I forgot Tommy Lee Jones was in Captain America. I loved him in that role too. He was great.
Glenn Close was in the first Guardians movie. Like, there were some big names that were involved in this. Because
what was dude's name from Winter Soldier? He's a big actor too.
I forgot too, but he passed
away. Redford,
Hurt,
like
right?
that.
Something hurt. Oh my god,
Robert Redford, or I don't know.
I think it was Robert Redford.
Was that his name?
I want to find out.
But yeah, like I said, again, just like silly fucking comments, and a lot of this shit again has no bearing on the actual content that we are getting and like the actual films. And people just, it was him.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go. Got it all up here, baby.
Good job.
But yeah, like I said, it's just silly fucking comments. And like we talked about before we started this, we're sick of it. We're just fucking sick of it. And so hopefully we've done our job well enough to not convince you, but to open your eyes a little bit about what is actually going on here in this kind of fake outrage that we live in. But Task, my man, I cannot thank you enough for being. I wish we could say, like I said, that's why I said we have to do a series, because I could sit here and talk to you all day about all of this shit, and I think it needs to be talked. Like you said, I think it is important to talk about this shit and to not let these grifters create the narrative. And I think that's really what's happening, and a lot of people are just jumping on that. So, like I said, man, you are obviously welcome back anytime, but I really would love to do this again. But before we get out of here, I just got to ask, so I think we've covered pretty much everything on the Eternals, but one, do you have anything left about the Eternals before we leave off here? And two, I know that you have a book coming out, a new Kickstarter. So I want you to please tell the people at home about that. When's that coming? Where can they find that?
The last thing I want to say about Eternals is, when it comes to these type of films, I really need people to come to their own conclusions. Even when it came to Madam Web, I tell people, yeah, it's getting ripped to shreds, but it's me. I don't talk about Madam Web because I didn't see it. So, like when it comes to things, I just say, just go and find out for yourself.
Yep.
There's so many people. Look at what's going on with the Marvels. So many people are watching it now. They're like, wow, that was actually very good. I'm like, yeah, you didn't watch it because some dude that you never met in your life told you that you wouldn't like it. And the same thing with Eternals. There are so many people. If you look every year, Eternals is like one of the top 10 most watched things on streaming because people are still coming back. They're like, wait a minute, that wasn't that bad. They're probably not going to talk about it online, but that is what it is. So when it comes to Eternals, things like that, please just go and just find out for yourself. That's number one. Number two, yes. Issue 4, Leaders of the Free World. April, I'm aiming for April. It's we're going out with a bang.
I love it. I love it. But I would say, please, if you got a minute, please tell us a little bit about it. Like you said, I know it's going to be a 40-pager. It's going to be, like you said, going out with a bang. So what can the people at home expect from Leaders of the Free World? It's not ending, correct?
It's not ending.
Just to
We're
clarify
putting
for
it on
everyone.
pause. You know,
Okay.
we're me and Eli. We're still good friends. We both have a lot of business ventures that are unfortunately taking up more time than doing the comic, but we do feel like we owe this one to the people. And as an apology for waiting so long, we're gonna make it a lot of pages. And I put everything into this issue of everything that I like. You know, I like a bunch of different things. I like sci-fi. I like giant robots. I like magic battle. I like wizards. I like superheroes. I like mythology. I like karate. I like martial arts. I threw everything in here.
Mm, love it.
Everything. I left it all on the writing floor. I left it all there.
Mm,
I want to make a book that everyone will remember.
mm.
And leave my stamp on it. And if I never write for Marvel or DC ever again, ever, I can look back and be like, look, I killed that one though.
Hell yeah,
killed that
man.
one.
I can't
So
fucking wait. So you're aiming for April. It's currently on Kickstarter right now. Like people
not
can
now,
go
not
and
now,
okay.
but we're gonna start the promo soon and get it going.
Okay, beautiful. Well, everyone listening and watching this at home, take my word for it. If you trust my opinion on comic books at all, pick up Leaders of the Free World. You will love it. Issues 1 through 3 you can find on Kickstarter, I believe, or are they?
It's
Where are
on
they at?
Global Comics. It's
Global
on Global
Comics.
Comics. Yeah.
Yeah, so on Global Comics, go check out issues 1 through 3. Make sure to keep an eye out for issue 4. I will be putting the Kickstarter in the description of this video, even if it's not out yet. By the time this video comes out, I will update it and put it in there whenever it's ready. I'm also going to be putting Task's socials in there, all of his other work in there. Also, our first video, if you want to learn more about Task, is comic book origin story, his work in comics, all that kind of stuff. Go check that video out. We talked all about that. But for now, man, I just got to say again, thank you so much for being here. It's always such a pleasure just to talk to you and get to hang out. But it's even more of a pleasure when we get to really talk our shit about something we're both really passionate about. So that's why I knew I wanted to talk about Eternal so bad, and I knew you were the perfect person to come and talk with me about it. So again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Of course, of course. And all of you guys at home, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Also, go over to bcwsupplies.com and use code Sons of Mjolnir for 10% off of your order. That's bags, boards, collectibles, everything that you need to protect the things that you love. We got you covered. So go check out that. Again, Sons of Mjolnir. That is going to be the code. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you all have a fantastic week. Stay hydrated out there. I hope your stacks are fat, and we will see you all next time, baby.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Like this all day.